And now to our special with the legendary civil rights singers, Sweet Honey and the Rock.
Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield way down by the riverside. I ain't gonna study war no more. 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 Ain't gonna study war no more. I'm gonna lay down the bombs and guns way down by the riverside, way down by the riverside, way down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down the bombs and guns way down by the riverside. I ain't gonna study war no more. 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 Ain't gonna study war no more. I'm gonna join hands the whole world round down by the riverside, down by the riverside, join hands down by the riverside. I'm gonna join hands the whole world round down by the riverside. Ain't gonna study war no more. I 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 ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna
Sweet Honey and the Rock, the legendary musical group live in our Firehouse studios here on Democracy Now!, breaking the sound barrier. I'm Amy Goodman. Celebrating 30 years together. It was 1973 when Bernice Johnson Reagan brought together a group of female singers to form an a cappella group. At the time, Dr. Reagan was the music director of the old D.C. Black Repertory Theater Company. The first song they practiced was called Sweet Honey and the Rock, the tune referring to the parable that spoke of a land so rich that when rocks were cracked open, honey flowed from them. They decided to take that name as their own. Dr. Regan was an original member of the SNCC Freedom Singers, also organized the Atlanta-based Harambee Singers, an ensemble of female vocalists who performed as part of the civil rights struggles of the 60s and the 70s. Since 1973, Sweet Honey in the Rock has reinvented a cappella music and introduced a generation to the roots of African American music, gospel, spirituals, and hymns, as well as blues and jazz. The group has released 18 albums and has toured the world. They won a Grammy Award in 1989 for work on the recording Vision Shared, a tribute to Woody Guthrie and Leadbelly. They've even published a book examining a history of the group and the times. Alice Walker wrote an introduction to their book, We Who Believe in Freedom. In it, she says, "There's a voice rising clear and purposeful from the collective throat of the group. It sings of Soweto, it sings of Chile. It remembers Biko, it recalls Martin, it affirms love between women. It tells us we're wearing clothing that cost somebody's life. It warns us that the jobs we're often forced to take contaminate and destroy us. It tells us we do not own our children. It urges us to acknowledge the suffering, yes, but to savor the beauty of life and the joy. Under this voice, the world begins to expand and paradoxically to grow smaller. We stand on the shore here in North America, a land that we love through great sadness and pain, and we gaze into the eyes and souls of folks we know in South Africa, Latin America, the Philippines, El Salvador, Israel, and Palestine." Those the words of Alice Walker describing Sweet Honey in the Rock. Over the years, the group's membership has included 22 women. The current ensemble joining us today has been together for quite a long time. Bernice Johnson-Regan, Isai Maria Barnwell, Aisha Khalil, Carol Maylard, Nitanju Balade Castle, and Shirley Childress Johnson is the signer today and a regular part of the group. It's our pleasure to have you all in the Firehouse Studios.
Thank you. We're very happy to be here.
So here we are together in very trying times, and you really were born of times like these. Dr. Bernice Johnson-Regan, can you talk about how you pulled Sweet Honey in the Rock together?
Black people come to this land as slaves, so there's something in the African American legacy in this land that has to do with trying to find yourself and find your path in the middle of struggle in an environment that wants you to be and do something else. And so Sweet Honey in the Rock, naturally in being true to the legacy of struggle, sort of embraces or stands in the foundation of that history. And I come out of the civil rights movement, and my function as a singer became clear in jail and in rallies. And I think Sweet Honey actually holds a kind of integrity with that legacy of struggle and culture and art.
The media today has forgotten history, almost whites it completely out. When you were with the SNCC Freedom Singers, can you talk about who they were and how you came into this movement?
But first, it is not simply the media that wipes out history. The culture is ahistorical. The culture we live in, the contemporary culture, pretends that what is the only thing that is. When I say that Sweet Honey has integrity with the movement of struggle, I'm really talking about a long history of struggle which includes the civil rights movement. I'm born in Albany, Georgia, and in 1961 I began to be involved in the civil rights movement in my hometown. And the Freedom Singers are actually formed because of the power of singing in the Albany, Georgia movement by Cordell Regan. And our first tour began in 1962.
Where did you first sing with them?
That kind of line is difficult because if you go from singing in your first rallies after your first march to, say, the first formal concert of the Freedom Singers, there isn't a line that stops. But I think probably December 31st, 1962, we performed at the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana to a combined convention of YMCA and YWCA college chapters. And our first tour was booked from those chapters. And that booking was by Ella Baker, who was on the board of the YWCA in New York.
Talking to Bernice Johnson Regan and her sister singers in Sweet Honey in the Rock. And you can go to our website at www.democracynow.org. That's www.democracynow.org for more information. We'll return with them in a minute.
This is a mean world to try to live in, to try to stay in until you die. This is a mean world to try to live in, to try to stay in until you die. Without a mother, without a father, without a sister, Lord, without a brother. This is a mean world to try to live in, to try to stay in until you die. This is a mean old world to live in. A mean old world to live in until you die. I get up in the morning and I read the daily news. I shake my head and lay back down after sin and trouble too. Some people call me noisy, I belong to the noisy crew. I shout when I get happy, Lord, that's the way God Christians do. This is a mean.
This is a Mean World, Sweet Honey in the Rock, our special today. Their website, sweethoney.com. I'm Amy Goodman as we return with my question to Bernice Johnson Regan, the group's founder. And what was singing like during those times? For young people who are perhaps listening now, maybe 15, 16, 17 years old, even the 60s and 70s are far away. What was it like in the times when, well, you're talking about singing at the University of Illinois, you're talking about singing in places where blacks and whites couldn't even be together.
I'm careful about that kind of comparison. One, it sounds as if I am antiquated, coming from some ancient place where things used to really be great. I can't stand old people who say that. So somehow I have to sort of talk about the civil rights movement and not talk about it in a way as if it's knocking what is happening today, because I feel like that's probably not helpful. There is a difference in the approach Sweet Honey uses in terms of the way we use our voices. One, when you sound your voice, you are supposed to be using your life energy to produce that sound. To all intents and purposes, you should disappear, and the only thing that's there is the sound. That creates a very, very powerful sound. Now, the difference between that and a lot of the contemporary music is that many of our contemporary singers make as little sound as possible, every once in a while giving you flashes of the potential power. But in the civil rights movement, in jails, in rallies, the sound was a way of announcing a community. And you actually, when you sang, could change the air you stood in for 2 or 3 blocks, and no microphones. And in changing that air, anybody who walked towards you, including the police, would be walking into your sound. and they would get to you long before they would get to your body. And I think that might be an image that helps to sort of feel the difference. But it's very hard to describe because Sweet Honey is a microphone group. So if you look at Sweet Honey now and you look at Civil Rights Movement singing then, great difference in the way the voice is used and the way the voice is projected and the way the voice is supposed to cover ground. And so I think there are real differences. But when I think about it, it is whether or not when you sing, the only thing that matters is the sound. And if people know that you're alive, they know you're alive, not because they are looking at you breathing, but because they're hearing something that is impacting on their physical body.
What about the power of singing in jail?
I learned in jail that I knew how to pick songs. I had always grown up in a church where people, songs would just come up without being announced, and I never knew why somebody would pick one song or another song. And in jail, I was a song leader, and people would never tell me what to sing. They would just say, sing a song. And I realized in jail I actually knew how to lay a song on a situation. So songs become a voice, they become a way of talking, communicating. Songs also in jail was a way of patching things together that were unpatchable together. A lot of people think in struggle, civil rights movement struggle, there was great resonance and harmony. And the opposite is the case. What there was a coming together on some issues, but holding together through an action was a real challenge, and without music it would not have been possible.